Hey, what's up, guys? Okay, so chapter 118 of Eden Zero is out, and the cover image for this week's chapter is actually a Moskoi basically emulating the Drunken Fist fighting style, which I saw for the first time back in Naruto during the Rescue Sasuke arc when Rock Lee used it. And if you guys remember anything about that fight, you know that the Drunken Fist fighting style is actually a very entertaining fighting style to watch. So I'm hoping that if we ever get to see, especially now that the anime is going to be coming, if we ever get to see Moskoi have his own actual real fight, that he'll use his fighting style because it will be very entertaining to watch, especially someone with Moskoi's physique using this fighting style in an actual fight. Now, what's really interesting about this cover image, and I found this out when I was looking up the leaks for this week's chapter yesterday, apparently the cover image we get for this chapter is actually a homage to another cover image that Hiro did back during his work of Rave Master, where he actually had a character doing the exact same pose, wearing pretty much the exact same clothes that Moskoi is wearing in this image. So yeah, this cover image is pretty much a homage to that previous cover image that he did back during Rave Master. Now that's not the only homage that we have in this chapter, because alright, remember back when Eden Zero was first announced and the character illustrations were first brought out online, and everyone made fun of the fact that they all pretty much looked just like the characters from Fairy Tail. And then even more jokes were made when LZ was first revealed because of the fact that she looks literally just like Urza wearing a pirate costume. Well, get ready for even more jokes be made about LZ and the fact that she is literally just Urza, because of the fact that in this chapter we actually get LZ's Ether Gear ability, and it is literally just the same thing as Urza's magic. So it turns out LC's Ether Gear ability is actually called Star Drain, which allows her to drain a large amount of ether from the planet that she's on and turn it into battle armor for her to fight with. And seemingly from the way she uses it in this chapter, this also allows her, instead of creating weapons like how Urza's magic does when she creates her magic armor, she gets a new weapon or a new sword with each armor. Instead, when LZ creates her armor, it seems like her armor allows her to manipulate the ether gear on that planet to attack with. Because when we see her surrounded by, like, I want to say hundreds of robots in this chapter, instead of creating any weapons with her armor, she just shoots out beams of energy, beams of ether gear energy from the planet out to destroy them. And you know what? With this kind of ether gear ability, with this kind of power, regardless of all the jokes people are going to make about the fact that she's even more now like Urza. I mean, her personality was literally just Urza. Her appearance was literally just Urza with a pirate costume, and now her ability is literally just Urza's ability without the weapons. Regardless of that, with the kind of ability that she has, being able to turn the planet's ether gear into her own weapon and being able to manipulate it to attack people, and even from a distance, that is a really OP power, and that it really now does make sense why she's in Orition States Galactica, because she is very, very overpowered with this ability. But the question I had after reading this part of the chapter and finding out what her ability is okay, does this only work on planets now? Does this only mean that if she's on a planet, she can use this ability, but she's on like her ship or someone else's ship in the middle of space? If she's on like a satellite that's, being used as a work as like a space station, would she still be able to use this ability? Would she still be able to drain the ether from the ship or from the station and turn that into a weapon or turn that into armor for her to use? But still, if her main ability requires her to be on a planet in order to use this kind of armor, then she literally is kind of powerless without it. Now, it could be a thing where like how Urza could just call on her armors whenever she wanted to using her own mana. It could be the same thing with LZ. Maybe she can actually use her own ether to create her ether gear armors, and seeing how powerful she is, I wouldn't be surprised if she has large quantities of ether gear already stored inside her. Maybe each time she drains a planet, if she doesn't use all the energy from that planet in the fight, maybe she stores it up in her body so that if she does need to call upon it when she's off the planet, she can still do so. Now, it was real cool that we got to see what LC's ability actually is in this chapter. Although, I don't believe the reason why she's on the planet, because in the chapter she says, right before she gets into the fight with all the androids, that the reason why she's on the planet is because of the fact that she heard the planet had great food and she wanted to try it out herself. Which, I mean, we had already kind of heard that earlier in the arc when the Beekeeper, who's currently with Shiki in their group, she said that the reason why she came to the planet was also because of the fact that she heard it had great food and she wanted to make videos about it. So it is believable that that could be the reason why she's there. But personally, I think this is basically a front that she's putting on, because really she's actually on the trail of Ziggy. She's trying to basically figure out what's going on with him, or just following in his footsteps, trying to catch up with him so that she can kind of stop him from doing whatever he's trying to do. And since he was here, obviously, on the planet at some point, she's basically just trying to play catch up at this point. But anyway, now that she's here, we have 4 different factions currently on Foresta. So currently we have Shiki and his group, we have LZ and her team, we have Justice, as we find out in this chapter, who's also on Foresta, currently tracking down LZ. So we have him and the Imperial Galactic, or the Intergalactic Police Force, that's what they're called. And we have Orc, Brittany, and Mora, who all represent Narrow Poseidon. So 4 different factions currently right now on this one planet. Now, obviously, when it comes to Elsie and Shiki, the two of them are friends. You know, they work close together. So when they come face to face, unless there's something really that's going on, like maybe Elsie gets mind controlled or Shiki gets mind controlled, something like that. Unless something like that happens, the two of them are going to team up. So then it becomes a three-way fight. Now, I could see it if at some point Orc, Brittany, and Mora, or maybe more of Narrow Poseidon's people come, and it becomes such a big threat that they can't handle it alone. The Intergalactic Police Force might team up, even though Elsie is their main target. If Narrow Poseidon's group becomes a big enough threat, I could see them teaming up with Elsie and Shiki in order to stop them. So then it will become a two-way fight between those 3 groups versus Narrow Poseidon's group, which actually could be really interesting because we don't know exactly what Justice's ability is just yet. So just like how we found out what Elsie's ability is in this chapter, if we do see him fighting later on in the arc, maybe fighting against Elsie or maybe teaming up with Elsie, we could end up finding out exactly what his Aether Gear ability is. And personally, I'm thinking because of the fact that Elsie is literally just Urza and he is pretty much supposed to be the representative of Jalal in the series, I'm guessing that his ability is going to have some kind of homage or some kind of reference to Jalal's ability over in Fairy Tail. And I actually kind of skipped over this to talk about the whole thing with Elsie and her Aether Gear ability, but we actually start the chapter off with Wise getting to Eden Zero with that beekeeper chick. I completely forget what her name is. But the two of them get back to the ship, and as soon as they get there, Wise is met by Sister, Hermit, and Witch. And the 3 of them, the way they are acting in that first page, in that first panel where we get to see them, the way they're standing and just like sitting there. At first I thought that maybe they were already under control of Ziggy's virus, and maybe they Wise has gotten there too late and they were going to attack him, or at the very least try to lead him into some kind of trap. But seemingly they aren't affected by it just yet. I mean, it could still end up being that they're leading him into a trap and that the plan they come up with in the chapter is actually the trap they're sending him to. But as of right now, everything seems on the up and up. But anyway, he comes back there and they basically give him a rundown of what's going on. And they basically explain to him that Ziggy is using a satellite to broadcast this virus across the entire planet, which basically forces all the androids and robots to turn against humans. Now, immediately, Wise actually brings up the question, which I had myself: why do they need Wise here in order to stop this? Couldn't Herman take care of it herself? And she technically could. She could get rid of the satellite and stop the virus. The only problem is that if she were to destroy the satellite, which would be her only option, that wouldn't stop the virus from affecting the robots that are already affected. They would still be forced to hunt down and hurt humans regardless if they want to or not. So what their plan is to use Wise's Aether Gear ability to basically rewrite the virus, to basically turn it into one that will turn them back into normal robots who have full control over their bodies. So yeah, that's basically their plan going forward. Now, what's really interesting about this is the fact that I don't think that remodeling the satellite itself will actually be the key to rewriting the virus. It would actually have to be Wise using its ability to rewrite the code for the virus. Now, if he actually can manage to do this, this could mean that Wise would potentially be the key to rewriting or saving Ziggy from whatever's affecting him right now. Basically, whatever is making him act the way he is right now, assuming that he's not basically putting on airs and pretending in order to teach Shiki some kind of lesson. If he actually is affected by some kind of virus that's making him act like an actual Demon King, if at some point they actually manage to defeat and incapacitate Ziggy, then all it will take is for Wise to basically touch Ziggy and use his Aether Gear ability to rewrite the coding and the virus that's affecting him, turning him back to normal. We also check back in with the 3 fights from last chapter, and basically in this chapter, Rebecca and Homura, they kind of get their second win and they basically start their counterattacks. We see Rebecca using her speed ability to basically get away from Brittany and surprise her, because Brittany doesn't really see Rebecca as a threat right now, even though she does say that her Aether Gear ability has some interesting qualities to it. She doesn't really think that Rebecca is going to be a big threat to her. And with Pino and Happy both out of the commission, she doesn't really see the fight going in Rebecca's favor. But of course, we know that somehow Rebecca's going to use her ability to basically come out on top. Now, when it comes to Homura, she basically is really pushed into a corner because obviously she's very weak to heat. And we end up finding out from Mora that the glue that he stuck her with, the hot glue, is pretty much permanently affixed to her. I'm sure that once she defeats him, she'll lose it. But as of right now, she has the glue completely stuck to her and she can't get rid of it. But even still, because of the fact that he basically insulted her friends, she found her second win and basically is pushing forward regardless of her weakness to the heat to defeat him. Now, I don't know exactly how she's going to defeat him or even how Rebecca's going to defeat Brittany, but the two of them are basically, like I said, getting their second win in this fight and are going to start their counterattacks in the next chapter. And then when it comes to Shiki versus Orc, seemingly the fight is over, even though I didn't think it would end this quickly. I'd actually thought this would be the main fight for the entire arc. But apparently the fight actually is over. I mean, it could just end up being that we really haven't seen Orc's true abilities just yet, and Hero's just making us think that's over for now. But, you know, maybe next chapter or the chapter after that, they're going to continue to fight. But anyway, right now, it seems like Orc is down for the count, and he actually mentions that he's actually really impressed by Shiki's abilities, but he says that his abilities and even Ziggy's abilities do not compare to Shura, who we end up finding out finally in this chapter and actually get introduced to in this chapter, is actually the son of Nero Poseidon, and he is completely different from what I thought. Alright, so originally I thought when he first brought up this idea of this Shura character, since he kept mentioning him, I originally thought that this would be a character that Shiki eventually would end up meeting, and because Ziggy would be Shiki's main opponent as someone who has a similar or basically the same Ifrigir ability, I thought that Shura would be a character that would teach Shiki how to properly use his abilities so that he can actually go toe-to-toe with Ziggy. But as we see from this chapter, Shura is literally a total dick. He is literally just the worst character. I mean, the first thing we see him do when he's introduced is basically use the Ifrigir ability to kill 2 girls. That's it. Like literally, that's all he does in this chapter is kill 2 women for basically just sticking up for a girl who's basically scared of the fact that she didn't answer a call when he called her. He actually kind of reminds me of early Laxus from Fairy Tail, only just like 100 times more a dick. Now, just because Shura has been revealed to be pretty much a dick and very obviously an evil character that Shiki's going to have to fight eventually, it doesn't mean that he can't still learn from him. Because eventually when the two of them fight, even if Shiki ends up losing the fight, because of the fact that they have the same Ifrigir ability, once Shiki sees the way that Shura is using it and how it's so different from the way he does it, we can see Shiki gain new ideas and gain a new understanding of how his powers work, which could lead to him basically powering up. It'd be something similar to how over in Black Clover, when Asta saw Lick using his swords against the demon, Asta realized, alright, well, I have not been using the full capabilities of my swords, and then eventually, once he realized that he actually could do different things with his swords and actually have different ways of drawing out their power, eventually he grew and actually gained a stronger ability from it. But anyway, guys, that's pretty much it for the chapter. That's it for the review. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Comment down below your thoughts and theories. I actually really enjoyed this chapter. I thought this actually was probably the coolest chapter we had from all of Eden Zero for this arc. Mostly because of the fact that we got to see what Elsie's ability is, and because of the reveal of Shura. Finally, I don't want to say the big reveal because he's only been brought up like, what, 4 or 5 times so far, but still. It was finally nice to get to see after being mentioned like 6 times by Orc. It was nice to finally get to see him. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about the chapter in the comment section down below. I will catch you guys next week. Peace.